Greetings. My name is Kelly Wilson. I am the Deputy Director here for St. Johns County Emergency Management, and the St. Johns County Public Library has asked me to do our hurricane season preparedness for our community members on the 2022 hurricane season. We like to start with, so you may have heard about an average hurricane season. What is an average hurricane season? Well, it's average. So what happens over time is we collect different sets of data. So 1981 to 2010, you can see that we had an average of 12 named storms, 6 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have 12 named storms. What it means is over the average of that 30-year period, we had 12 named storms. So as we collect more data, we've moved beyond 2020, they start reevaluating numbers. And as you can see, the average is 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. So why and what does that mean for us? Well, the one thing I can tell you that it means, our technology has increased. We are better at viewing things. We have more satellites. Our science, our technology, all of those things are better now. So we are able to see it. Our data set is a newer data set. So our average of named storms has increased. So we talk about 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes. Hurricanes are obviously anything that becomes an actual hurricane. Named storms or anything that receives a name. Tropical storms receive names. And then we have 3 major hurricanes as an average. Major hurricanes are anything that is Category 3 or higher. So what does that mean for us here in St. Johns County? How many storms are we going to have this year? My answer is always this: I don't know. We don't know. You may see that Colorado State puts out a seasonal forecast, as well as the National Hurricane Center also puts out a seasonal forecast. They use things like global climate models. You hear them talk about El Nino and La Nina, which we've been in a La Nina pattern for several years now, and we're still in a little bit of one. So they base those because they can look at their climate data and they can say, well, when we have these types of global climate patterns, we usually have more or less or, an average hurricane season. So right now, we usually wait until the National Hurricane Center puts out their predictions of the hurricane season. Those will be out in late May to early June. But my answer to everyone, because we get this question a lot, well, how many hurricanes are we going to have? Are we going to have a hurricane this year? I don't know. And the question is never if, it's when. It is when are we going to have a hurricane, not if we're going to have a hurricane. So that is why I ask people, don't focus on those seasonal forecasts. Those seasonal forecasts are just giving us an idea. Is it going to be a busy hurricane season or is it going to be a less busy hurricane season? And I always try to point people back to the 2020 hurricane season. You may or may not remember that one because we were doing a lot of COVID. But most folks were focused on that, but you probably do not remember any hurricanes here. And that's because while that was the busiest hurricane season on record, none of them came to St. Johns County. So how busy the ocean is, sure, we like to watch it. The odds are probably going to be better that one may come this way, but we could have an utterly quiet season, and then all of a sudden, one storm comes, and it comes here to St. Johns County. That's the only storm that really matters. That storm that comes here. So now's the time to get prepared. That's why I'm so glad to have this opportunity to talk to y'all. Now's the time we're going to get prepared for hurricanes. We're not going to wait until August and September when we start seeing them they all start rolling through the ocean and people are getting a little panicky and they're running to a grocery store and somehow we're now in that 5-day cone. That's not the time to start getting prepared. Now's the time. So don't worry about, is there going to be 20 hurricanes? Is there going to be 5 hurricanes? Assume there's going to be a hurricane and prepare accordingly. So one of the most important things you can do is know your hurricane evacuation zone. We have a tool, which I'm going to show you momentarily how to get there. And this tool is amazing because it's Know Your Zone. What hurricane evacuation zone do you live in? And this year, we received new data because we are always trying to improve our hurricane evacuation zones because we do not want to have to evacuate people who don't need to evacuate. So you're saying, well, Kelly, what do you mean these zones? These zones are based on water, not wind. We actually evacuate you based on water and storm surge, which is either pushed or pulled from the ocean by a hurricane. And then another critical piece of this is knowing your home. If an evacuation order, you go and you figure out your zone, and you're like, oh, this is fantastic. I'm not in an evacuation zone. Okay, well, I'm not in an evacuation zone, but so I'm going to stay. How is my house? What do I know about this house? Did I just move here? We have a lot of new folks here. Have you investigated your home? Do you have shutters? When was that house built? We're going to talk about that a little bit more as well. So, do you know your zone? So our evacuation zones are designated from A to F. Generally, Zone A is most vulnerable, and they're the most likely we're going to evacuate first. Zone F is out at the river. So if you're new to our community, you folks out at the river, you're like, but I'm not near the ocean. That is true. But I will tell you that the St. Johns River, and here's a fun fact for anyone that's new, the St. Johns River actually runs north, not south. And because water flows downhill. So the St. Johns River runs north. And the St. Johns River dumps into the ocean up in Jacksonville. So that river starts somewhere near Orlando-ish in Sanford, and it moves north all the way through Jacksonville. Well, if you look at hurricanes and how hurricanes blow, we have onshore winds on the north sides of hurricanes. So when those winds begin to blow on that river, you kind of think of it, it kind of stops it up a little bit, and it stops allowing the river to move water out into the ocean. If you were here during Irma and Matthew, and especially Irma, because Irma came from the south and went up the middle of the state, you may remember that the river and folks near the river, those areas when Hastings and along the river, they were flooded for days and days and days afterwards because the river had to take the time to dump all the rain and all the water that had been put into it. St. Johns River is also an extremely wide river, so it has what meteorologists like to call a bathtub effect. So when that water starts sloshing back and forth, it takes a while for it to stop. So it's critical that you know your evacuation zone. And this is a very easy tool. You go to this link, you click this link, and it will take you right to our page. You enter your St. Johns County address, and it will tell you either what letter zone you live in or that you don't live in an evacuation zone at all. So the next thing, you figure out what zone, and you're like, yeah, I don't live in a zone. This is great. So you don't live in the zone. Or you may live in C or D, and you think, well, I may or may not get evacuated depending upon the level of hurricane we have coming. So it's critical to know your home. Most homes in Florida, we changed our building code after 2002 and made our homes much more resilient to hurricanes. So it's important to find out, when was my home built? When did I have a roof last put on? What are these windows made of? Because the other thing I like to remind folks that yes, your home may have been built after 2002, and what that did is it required extra strapping and things done to your roof to help maintain the integrity of the home. The important piece here is your windows, any openings, your garage doors. Go look at those. Do you have impact glass? Do you have shutters to cover those windows? Your garage door, has it been reinforced? Do you have reinforced bolting and strapping to that garage door? If the answer to those questions is I don't know, now's the time to find out. Now's the time to think about getting those hurricane shutters or those impact type windows. Because even if your home was built after 2002, we have to keep what we call the envelope of the home. You can't allow wind to get inside of your home. These are the ways you keep that wind out. You keep it out of the garage door, you keep it out of those windows, and you make your home much more resilient to storms. So Hurricane Strong, these are some of our preparation tips. Build your disaster kit. What does your disaster kit look like? We're going to talk about your disaster kit in just a moment. Board up those windows. Flooding, these are important, talking about those storm surge, the storm surge zones, evacuation zones. What do they look like? Insurance checkup. Have you looked at your insurance policy? Have you made sure that your home, especially if you've owned your home for quite a while, look at that insurance policy. Make sure that insurance policy is covering what you need it to cover. Do you have coverage to replace your home? The value of your home may have increased a great deal in the past couple of years. So you need to take a look at that insurance policy and make sure it's covering what you need it to cover. Do you have any expensive antiques or anything in your homes? I remember after one of the storms, we got a phone call from someone, and they were discussing they had an antique couch that was worth $10,000. Well, unfortunately, FEMA or your insurance company, there's a standard cost for a couch, and a couch is only going to get you X number of dollars. So if you have very expensive things in your home, you need to look at your insurance policy. You need to make sure that those things are covered. Power outages and generators. We always like to talk about this. We need everyone to understand that when a hurricane comes, your power is probably going to go out. And depending upon the strength of the hurricane and how hard the wind blows, your power could be out for days and days and days, weeks possibly. So you need to be prepared for that. You need to be prepared. Some people have gotten generators. Some people's generators power their entire home. Some folks have generators that power a few things, like they power like the hot water heater and the refrigerator to keep those things going. So we start looking at the different things like we talked about, and look at your house, look at the roof, look at the soffits. Inventorying your home, that goes back to your insurance. One of the big things with insurance is go through your home. Let's even say you're going to evacuate, or today, go take pictures of your home inside and outside so you know what your home looks like before you receive any storm damage. This will be extremely helpful for you. Protecting your pets. This is always a very important thing. Remember that you need to, when you get your disaster supply kit, make sure you get that pet disaster supply kit. Make sure that your pets are part of your plan. If it's not safe for you in your home, it's not safe for your pets. So you can go to this website, and it'll give you other tips on how to holistically prepare yourself for hurricane season. This is one that is very near and dear to my heart. And I think it became that way after Matthew and then Irma, because so many people received so much flood damage. They didn't have they didn't have flood insurance. And you say, well, Kelly, you just told me about my homeowner's insurance. If you don't hear a single other thing I say to you, hear me now. Your homeowner's insurance, your windstorm insurance, does not cover flood damage. And I'm going to say it again. Your regular windstorm homeowner's insurance does not cover flood damage from rising water. Storm surge, river, all of that will be rising water. You must buy a flood insurance policy. These policies, this is part of looking at your portfolio. Do you have flood insurance? Today is the day to buy that flood insurance. And you're like, well, Kelly, I've got a mortgage and they told me I didn't have to buy it. Let me assure you that if you right now go and look in your purse, go get your wallet out, look at your driver's license. If your driver's license says Florida, you need flood insurance, because the possibility of flooding from a hurricane, because flood zones and evacuation zones are two very different things. So, flood insurance. Flood insurance takes 30 days to go into effect. So I recommend today is the day to call your insurance agent and go buy that flood insurance. And I will tell you, especially for those of you who are like, well, I don't have to buy flood insurance. I'm not in a flood zone. I've got even better news for you now. Your flood insurance is quite reasonably priced. I am in Evacuation Zone C, so the potential for storm surge flooding is very real. I do not live in a flood zone. I purchased my flood insurance, and it's about, I used to tell you, it's about $40 a month. It's $460 a year. And if you look at that graphic right there, it says just 1 inch of water can cause $25,000 of damage to your home. Here's how I always weigh those odds. I think that's 1 inch of water. That's not much. Hold up your fingers right now. It's very little water. I can afford that $460 a year. I don't have $25,000 or more sitting in my bank account to fix the damages caused by floods. So please take a look at this. Please ensure you buy flood insurance. So let's talk about our disaster supply kits. And this goes for whether you're evacuating or whether you're staying at home. So your disaster supply kits. We need you to be able to survive on your own for several days. When the power goes out, we may lose water. We may lose our water supplies. It's entirely possible. So we need you to make sure that you are ready to survive on your own for several days while these services begin getting restored. So food and water. We need to make sure you have food and water for everybody in your house, including your pets. So I will give you this tip. This food and water needs to be non-perishable, so the stuff that doesn't need to be in a refrigerator or in a freezer. So folks will go out and they will buy things and go, okay, this is canned stuff. I strongly recommend that they're canned things that you actually like to eat. So if you love eating Vienna sausages in a can, buy Vienna sausages. But if you never ever eat Vienna sausages, don't buy those. Don't put those in your kit because you're not going to want to eat them. It's the same thing like granola bars. Do you never eat a granola bar? Well, then find something that you do like. Find something that you're going to eat in an emergency, because these things, if you don't like the foods, you're definitely not going to want to eat them, and you're going to become more irritable because remember, you already don't have power. Medicine is critical, and I will tell you this, in Florida, especially if there's hurricanes when they're starting to roll through the ocean, make sure you have your prescriptions filled. Many times pharmacies, especially during hurricane seasons, will give you additional medication supplies, and I know sometimes prescriptions are written for 30 days. Many times you will be able to get additional supplies to make sure that you make it through a hurricane. Communications are critical. I strongly recommend a NOAA weather radio. They're about $25 or $30. If you lose all other communications, we will still be able to get emergency messages through that radio, or just a regular radio. Make sure your cell phone, the cell phone thing now, if we talk about batteries and stuff, most of us can simply charge our cell phones in our cars. So things like that, make sure you have the ability to charge. You very well may lose cell signal. We may lose all of those types of communication. So we need you to at least have a radio so that we'll be able to put emergency messages out. And I mean like the regular radio, AM, FM type radio. Fill your car up with gas. I'm sure you've all seen when we order an evacuation, the folks who fail to fill up their cars are all sitting in lines at gas stations. I would recommend to you in hurricane season, don't let your gas tank get below a half a tank. Keep your car filled with gas. Otherwise, we're going to order an evacuation. You're going to need to evacuate. And you're going to be sitting in a line with a whole bunch of other folks who didn't listen to me tell them, go fill your gas tank. And money. Money is an interesting thing. The younger generation does not generally have cash. I know this because I have a couple that work here with us. And it's a very interesting where anybody in an older generation, they always have cash. So I say this to all of us. We all need to have cash because ATMs may not work. Electricity is out. There's no other way other than cash. Cash may become king for days and days. So have yourself a little bit of cash on hand. Evacuation and sheltering. Remember when we talked about evacuation? So you figured out your evacuation zones, right? Okay, I know where I'm supposed to be going. I got to get out of here. Where am I going to go? Decide today. Decide today, where am I going? Is it a shelter? Is it a hotel? Is it one of my friends that lives outside that evacuation zone? So this is a great opportunity to find your friends who live within St. Johns County, and they're mostly just in the middle of this county, and your friend, your family member, your daughter, your son, your mom, your dad, whomever they are, and you find that they don't live in an evacuation zone. You're going to be more comfortable staying with friends and family. Or you said, no, I'm going to go to a hotel. Just make sure the hotels that you're looking at are outside that evacuation zone. That's going to be the ones generally along I-95. You may want to go to Clay County or Nassau County. You may want to go a county away, something like that. You don't need to go far. We just need you outside that evacuation zone. So if neither one of those options, neither of those are going to work for me. Okay, so we are going to have shelters open. We will never order you to evacuate if we do not open one of our shelters. You can go to the St. Johns County Emergency Management website, and you will be able to go there and look at our shelter locations. Our shelters are, in fact, schools. Now, not all of the schools are shelters, but all of our shelters are, in fact, schools. So go to that page, take a look at the shelters. If we are in evacuation, we will also tell you these are the shelters that we're opening. We will not necessarily open all of our shelters at the same time. We open as many shelters as we need. And you're probably going to be like, well, those shelters are way inland. Well, yeah, absolutely. Our shelters are not located in evacuation zones, so you're going to have to drive a little bit to get to that shelter, but they are, in fact, in St. Johns County. The other piece of that is, do you have animals? And this is a very big deal. I know I have a dog and a cat, and I love them very much. And I would never leave them if I had to evacuate. To prevent folks from staying in an unsafe situation, we created pet-friendly shelters. That is where you and your pets can come and be sheltered. So your dog, cat, guinea pig, parrot, whatever your household pet is, you can go to one of our pet-friendly shelters and you can see them. They're Timberland Elementary and Southwoods Elementary. Those are our pet-friendly shelters. Those are run in coordination with the St. Johns County Animal Care and Control as well as the St. Johns County School District. Those will be shelters where you can take your pets and be sheltered with them. We also will have the general population shelters. Those are just the shelters that anyone can go to without pets. But we will also have a special medical needs shelter. These shelters are for folks that require electricity to survive. Many of them are on oxygen. Those types of shelters will be open in the event of evacuation. So now's the time to take a look and see what your option is if you do in fact have to evacuate. Because you don't want a storm coming at you. And that's the moment you start trying to do all these things because you're going to be stressed, you're going to be anxious, you're going to be scared. So do it now when the time comes. If the time comes, you have your entire plan laid in place, you have your kit, you have everything ready to go, and you are ready to evacuate or shelter in place, and you get your home and everything else prepared. It will be less stressful for you. This is a critical piece of how we will let you know. It's called Alert St. John's. Many of you have likely seen this. If you have not, if you're new to our community, you can go to the St. Johns County Emergency Management website or that link there at the bottom, and you will be able to go sign up for alerts and warnings. Now, what are these alerts and warnings? Alerts and warnings that you will sign up for will be public safety type alerts. They could be evacuation orders. They could be boil water advisories. They could be some sort of law enforcement type situation where they need to notify the public. The great part about this system is you get to choose how you are notified. Would you like us to call your house phone? Would you like us to call your cell phone? Would you like us to text you, or would you like us to email you? Or would you like us to do every single one of those things? You get to choose how you receive those alerts. You can just pick, I only want to be texted, or I want to be texted and called. So you get to choose. Now, you will also, the public safety portion, you will be enrolled in anything public safety, and that is a critical public safety message, okay? We're not going to use that to call you and tell you that garbage day has changed or recycling day. This will be critical public safety messages only. You will have an option to sign up for weather alerts. So weather alerts include things like severe thunderstorm warnings or a tropical storm warning or a hurricane warning, things like that. What I will tell you with those, part of the public safety is you are automatically going to be enrolled in a tornado warning. And the reason you are enrolled in a tornado warning is because a tornado warning is a critical life safety warning that you must receive, because if a tornado warning is put out, you must take action right at that moment. Any of the other weather alerts and warnings, you have the ability to sign up how you would, which ones you want to receive. I will caution you with this. Those watches and warnings may come out at any time of day or night, especially night. So if you sign up to receive, for example, severe thunderstorm warnings, that warning may come out at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's going to automatically, from the weather services, an automatic, and it's going to alert you in whatever manner you chose. So that is the only word to the wise that I would like to give to you. We had some folks sign up for freeze warnings. I will give you this tidbit. Freeze warnings come out 12 and 24 hours ahead of time. So sometimes they come out at 2 o'clock in the morning. People were not thrilled about being alerted to a freeze warning that's happening in 12 or 24 hours at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So I just want to give you that tidbit. But the other piece, if you just sign up for the public safety, you don't have to sign up for any of those weather pieces. This is a critical way that we will be able to alert you to evacuation type orders and critical public safety messaging. So now that is the end of my preparedness presentation. I hope that you've all received a lot out of this. This is my name, and it's my email and our phone number here at the St. Johns County EOC. We are all hopeful that we do not have to do any of these preparedness actions this year, but we want everyone in our community to be prepared in case we do. So if you have any further questions, you can both email or call me, and I want to thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful day.